All right, dipping into the comments from last week's video here on Morning Kickaround, we had a segment talking about MLS owner Jimmy Haslam giving a quote saying MLS has a long way to go to garner a legitimate TV audience, and that video caused quite a bit of reaction. Lots of comments on that video, so we thought we'd dip into the comments in a brand new segment here. So,
Yep.
what were the ones that you found most compelling, Mr. Davis?
So I'm throwing this one up on the screen from Gregory Biestek 3431, talking about, again, Jimmy Haslam saying we need to make our product better so that we can get more TV money or whatever the quality needs to improve. This could be the best product in the world, but if nobody can watch it, what does it matter? There's a potential problem. How accessible will it be for casual fans? The MLS needs to grow. If it remains behind a paywall with numerous blackouts and restrictions, it will only be slightly better, no media at all. Outside of the diehard fans, will anyone care about any of the teams in the playoff? The USA media? No, they don't. So this is obviously about the issue of the paywall. And Rob, I don't know that there was I don't know there was a way for MLS to say no to what Apple was offering, because they weren't getting that anywhere else. And it's a difference in money that is impossible to say no to if you are running a business in which you have people you need to answer to in terms of the health and growth of the business. And let's not forget that we live in a world where if you make a choice as someone running a publicly traded company or has investors, not publicly traded necessarily, but have investors, you can be sued for not doing what's best for the company and improving the return of the investors. So there's that. And again, Major League Soccer there was nobody else coming to them and saying, hey, here's this money for your TV product. We'll give you significantly more than you've ever made for your TV rights if you put your games on cable or whatever it is, Rob. Again, the only thing that you could say that maybe MLS needs to do is stop being a slave to the money and think longer term. And that's the only real way that you can see around them choosing Apple and what Apple TV offered.
Yeah, and we go back all the way back to like March or April when the Athletic GM anonymous survey came out, and a lot of even the decision makers within these clubs were not super happy about it either, because I think they probably felt the same way as many fans did, that not as many folks are stumbling across it as they should. It's doesn't really have that big footprint that they were hoping for. A lot of the time, it just seems like it can happen on Apple, and people that don't have Apple or engage with Apple just are none the wiser of what's going on. So in some ways, MLS was caught being the beggar rather than the chooser in these points, and a lot of the bigger leagues in the country this year have a huge amount of leverage where they can pick and choose and what TV deals work out for them. But
Right.
MLS's take, it's like, hey, take peanuts from over here and people might find your stuff, or here's
Right.
X amount of money more than some. The ceiling's low and the audience is debatable, but it's more solid and predictable than anything you've had before.
No, I do think that we get lost in the sauce a little bit when it comes to like what is the MLS paywall? What does it actually look like, Rob? And how does it compare? Right? Because I think we're a little reactive when it comes to soccer, a little defensive of the way soccer is perceived in the culture. We go, oh, you put it behind your paywall, nobody sees it. What a terrible decision. There are games available. Major League Soccer does have a deal with Fox. I don't think there's any ESPN, but they do have a deal with Fox, right? Where some of those games are simulcast. Right? Still, Stu Holden and John Strong are still doing MLS games. Now they're doing MLS games while there's also an Apple TV feed with different announcers, which is kind of confusing, but that's still a thing. You know, Apple has at various times made games free, so they're not always you have to pay to get access. It's just again, it becomes an awareness thing more than anything else.
Yeah,
It
awareness.
and it's worth asking whether or not MLS can continue to push that boulder up the hill to good effect, right? If they're always pushing the boulder up and it rolls right back down every time they try, is it better to go in a different direction, which is what the Apple TV deal represents, right? So the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, many of whom have put their product behind significant paywalls. I have no idea. I barely know what's going on with the NFL because soccer's taking over my life, but I'm a Broncos fan. I have no idea how to watch the games. I don't know where. I don't know if I wanted to be a Bronco just to watch Bronco games. What do I need to buy? How does that work? I have no idea. I do know how to get every streaming service for every league that's available on Paramount Plus or NBC, Peacock, or whatever. Like I have all that stuff. So again, maybe it's just the fact that the people that might be interested aren't aware, and that MLS and Apple haven't done a good enough job of pushing people in that direction. I don't know, because they weren't. It's not like they were winning a public relations battle and everybody was clamoring for their product before this. Rob, what would it
It's
matter if they were on if they were on ESPN still if nobody watches on ESPN?
Yeah, they were in kind of a zero win sort of a situation, and it is hard to kind of quantify or make an argument totally for or against the Apple deal, because it is in a location. Like if it comes to mind, where do I want, like, where's the MLS? I know it's on Apple, but I am definitely not in the general population of the United States, television watchers that know that. Do they need to put more commercials in mainstream things saying MLS is on there? They've done ad campaigns talking about MLS as being on Apple. And so it is really hard, because it wasn't, they didn't like turn their backs on like some overwhelming successful media
Yeah.
partnership and then go to one that's completely different. It's kind of turning one kind of shrug of the shoulders to a slightly different one that lasts a lot longer than
We judge
the
our
previous ones.
sports. We judge sports, period, and particularly in the U.S., where we have the monster that is the NFL, and an NBA that has become, the sort of the sport of a younger generation over the last decade, 2 decades. We judge every sports property by those standards, right? We
Mhm.
judge, like it's that thing about, like, what are they talking about at the water cooler? Well, I don't even know if water coolers exist anymore, but if they did, like, what are they talking about at the water cooler? Are Bob and Tom coming to the office on Monday morning and really talking about the soccer game or the MLS game that they saw? Now, again, MLS is also in this situation where I think because of the media landscape, it's really hard. It's really hard to be new, which MLS is. Like even if you're talking about 30 years, you're still relatively new on the scene compared to those sporting properties that have been around for so long and become part of people's lives. Your entire life as a Steelers fan circles around the Steelers schedule. That has not really been the case. There are MLS fans who live that kind of life, but it hasn't really become the same thing that the NFL has become. So are you better off? And this is a question I don't even know if I have an answer to. Are you better off going off to your own corner and really just putting your games on for the people you know want them most and who will pay you maybe 25, 35, $55, whatever it is? Or are you better trying to carve out some sort of major cultural weight that is almost impossible to imagine can happen in the modern era?
I think this comment really talks about some collateral damage that we haven't included into the conversation yet, is the local affiliates kind of being cut out of the equation with this new deal, because I think soccer, much like baseball, is so regional heavy or localized
Yeah,
heavy. Like
yeah.
I know that I don't watch any until the playoffs. I don't watch any baseball outside of my own hometown team. And then a lot of people build relationships with their home commentators, their home broadcasts, and those seem to have been cut out per what Chris
Well,
is saying
okay,
here.
but again, it's a give and a take, right? You're saying, oh, we lost our local broadcast. You know how bad some of those local broadcasts were? How terrible they were? How terrible they made the league look by virtue of a terrible local broadcast? And I imagine MLS was thinking, hey, can we just like you make this a more uniform approach? And that's the thing. Like, you cannot really say anything negative about the quality of the broadcast that MLS is doing on Apple TV.
Not
Like,
at
that
all.
is
I
an
enjoy the 360.
incredibly high quality broadcast. You got 360, you got this extra stuff, multiple languages. Like, they are not scrimping on on what they're doing when they broadcast their league. So again, give and take. All right, we
I
got
would say
another.
early, just one last note about the local broadcast. When I first started tuning into USL broadcasts around 2010, 2012, I did enjoy trying to guess which other sport the commentator usually does rather than soccer. It's like, is this a hockey guy, a basketball guy?
Oh, always,
Because
yeah, yeah.
the
There's some
local
hockey
hockey guy in the
guys.
offseason would do
Ooh,
soccer.
baby. Yeah, that is a thing. Okay, let's go to a different comment on that same video. This is from Wasatch One Touch. I don't think Europe understands that the US is coming for all of it. MLS will be the Super League replacement in the future. I think what is going to be the key is MLS is going to just have more quote unquote super clubs than any other league. All of Miami, LA times two, New York times two, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, DC, Philly are bigger than every big league European metro except for 3, London, Paris, and Madrid. Just the sheer numbers will win out eventually. I think there's a lot of steps between now and what Wasatch One Touch is talking about, Rob. But look, and I don't believe that this is really going to happen, but it's something interesting to consider that as the world moves away from sort of traditional models of sports, and there are clubs in Europe who are chomping at the bit to change the paradigm and maybe go in a more American direction, would MLS stand to benefit in that world?
Yeah, there's a lot of steps there. It is fun to kind of like think about that in the future. And what is this, like 50, 60 years in the future,
It's a
perhaps?
good question. I don't know, man.
Like it
don't
is
know.
fun to hypothesize, and maybe so. Like they take all guardrails off, and as time develops, yeah, they become the big spenders just because the size of the cities and the way economics might be going or might change in the future. But it is kind of wild to think of, in certain regards, there's probably now already some Major League Soccer players have come here rather than Saudi Arabia, perhaps. Like Messi, there was a debate, did he choose MLS over Saudi Arabia? So I guess in very incremental decisions that may already happening to a degree, but to think of Major League Soccer as the power player, what sort of barriers have to be broken here? There's quite a few. It's like
Well, what I
we're not
think
the
is most
underpants gnomes here.
what I think is most what's missing from the calculation here, and again, I understand why your brain would go in this direction, but what I think is missing is that we are becoming a more and more dislocated sporting fan base across everything. Like it doesn't. There are obviously people who want to go to the games. There are people who want to go and experience that live. And local fans will always be the heartbeat of a club. And I definitely think that we are in a dangerous moment right now in some regards where clubs are starting to take their local fans for granted or not necessarily center those local fans in what they are thinking about long term. But if we do continue to move in this direction, we've got millions of people around the world who watch their team and care about their team and live and die with their team and will never be close, never be within 1,000 miles of the stadium that they play in. So if it doesn't matter where you are because your product is being broadcast across the world and you can generate a fan base and generate revenue and have all those things that come with being a club, why does it how could New York or Miami or LA or any of these big cities in America overcome Madrid and Barcelona and Manchester and all these cities that have storied clubs, not franchises, storied clubs who have a history that people connect with that none of these MLS teams can touch?
It's generations. This is generational stuff. I'd have to believe. Like so many different things would have to change. And then, teams like Chicago, I feel like they could, in theory, become a super team if all the people that loved soccer in Chicago galvanized around one
But that's
team.
exactly the point,
That's a
right?
super.
That's exactly the point. And it comes back to the media landscape that we live in. We are blessed to have the ability to watch whatever we want, wherever it happens. As long as you make accommodations in your life for getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock on the West Coast, you can watch your team from anywhere in the world. So how could a Chicago team with millions of people in Chicago, or hundreds of thousands at the very least, soccer fans who just do not care about the local team? And even if the quality, to Jimmy Haslam's point, even if the quality goes up dramatically in Major League Soccer because suddenly they're spending on the level of some of the big 5 leagues in Europe, it doesn't mean that those people who are already Real Madrid fans and Barcelona fans and PSG fans or whatever are going to be like, oh, yeah, now I care about the Fire. Let me support them. And now everybody who's a soccer fan in Chicago pays attention to that because they do not have to. There was an era in sports when we created all of these connections, when we created our habits, when our families became the fans of the teams they became fans of, where there was no choice. You were either going to the game or listening to it on the radio locally. That was it. You couldn't watch a game on television. When television came in, you had local teams on television. You didn't have national games. You maybe had one. Monday Night Football broke everything wide open by putting a game on national television for everybody to watch. And obviously that at a time when there were 3 television stations and people created habits around that. And now everybody in America watches games on Sunday and Monday nights or Thursday nights sometimes, crazily, that they do not care about who wins the game. They are just watching it because that's what we do as Americans. How do you overcome that if you're trying to make soccer that level? How do you overcome that? Because There is no rewinding time to go back to a moment when everybody in Chicago has no choice but to support the local team because you don't have access to anybody else. We all have access. I can watch whoever I want right here.
That's true. That's true. Right there in your pocket. And I think time is ultimately the only thing that can do this, because 150 years ago, whatever, baseball was America's pastime, and right now it's definitely American football is it's in people's blood now, and maybe it takes another few generations to have it turn to the
None of
world's
this is
game,
to
but maybe
say,
maybe it
none of
even
this is
never
this.
does.
Well, none of this is to say. Look, I don't think I think you're going to set yourself up for disappointment if you're like, well, if MLS doesn't become like the NFL, what are we even doing here? That's not going to
Do
happen,
we
and
want? Do we ultimately want that?
we don't. Yeah, I don't need it to happen to be happy with my soccer or to care about my domestic league, right? I've found my connection. I'm an American. I want the American domestic league to be good, but even if it's not rated among the best in the world, that doesn't make it invalid. It doesn't mean it's not worth watching. It's mine. You're going to go tell people, hey, don't watch the Polish first division. It's terrible. If they're in Poland and they support those teams, they don't care. They don't care. Now, obviously, they would love to maybe do something in the European competitions or whatever, Rob, but it doesn't stop them from going crazy when their team wins the Polish title in a given year. Like that, I don't know, that thing where we're judging each other by what we care about and we're making decisions about what is sort of legitimate soccer and what's not is ridiculous, because you can like whatever you want to like and make that legitimate. USL Championship. It's the top division of soccer in America. No. Might you tell Hartford Athletic fans are wrong for celebrating winning that trophy in Sacramento? Of course not. For them, it's massive, and it should be. This is what this is all about.
Thank you to the comments leading to this conversation. That's fantastic to see so many people chiming in there and chiming in on our live stream. And note that any comment that we receive here might turn into a segment or might be referenced on one of our shows. So feel free to continue to chime in.
Fire off those hot takes, like the hottest possible takes, so we can put them on the screen and talk about it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And this is a community driven thing. We're dotting the map all together, dotting the map, stadiums, teams, and morning kick around members. So, and I did see in the morning kick around Discord server, we do have some more dots to add to the map as well. So some more dots expanding the footprint of the MK Ultras. Great to see. Great show as always here today, and we'll be back on Wednesday. So before we go, hit subscribe if you haven't done so. Consider becoming an MK Ultra. Get on screen for these live streams. Priority access to videos. You get them sooner than everyone else. Bonus content and the Morning Kick Around Discord server, which has been a lot of fun and great to see grow indeed. And then so we'll be back on Wednesday. You got any final thoughts there, Mr. Davis?
No, that's it. Go soccer. Is that a good one? That's a good thought, right? Go soccer.
Yay,
Yeah,
sports
yay,
and soccer.
yay, yeah. We like sports and we don't care who knows.
All right. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Until then, enjoy that soccer.